favourite part of the entire Ripple production process was the very beginning, when I received all the manuscripts to look through and to judge and to cast my eye over, because it was so reassuring to me to realise that actually what I was looking at was so easy to decide whether you liked it or not. And I didn't know that I had such formed opinions already, and I hadn't actually read much poetry in a few years, but you can really tell what is the cream of the crop and what is maybe slightly less so. So no, I loved that process. And it was so satisfying when you finally come to the final set.
Mine is the opposite.
Really?
Philippa likes the beginning, and I like the end. To see things come together, all the efforts of students into one project.
Yeah.
It's more satisfying. Not that the work isn't sasatisfying that you put into it, but
it's so good to see
the end results.
Especially when you know how much hard work has gone into it.
I had a few. First, being able to see the manuscript before everyone else, getting to read the poems and the short stories, seeing them in that kind of fresh stage, and then being able to play around with them and kind of tweak and stuff. I really liked typesetting and tweaking the lines and spacing.
My favorite bird of Dorin's is the one that's it's like cartwheeling through, the cartwheel bird, and has like notes coming out. And it's one of the party birds, and I think he's really funny.
I think my favorite bird of yours, Kristin, is probably the one that's sort of falling off the unicycle. I just think he's so much fun.
I was doing some copy editing on it, and in the class that in editorial production and design, this guy from Penguin named Richard said that a copy editor's job is to, a copy editor has done a good job if you don't notice that he's been there. So I think if someone's reading along and it's an enjoyable read and you're not distracted by weird syntax, then that's where
you've done a good job.
Succeeded.
So I guess motivation for the style I used in the birds came just from the research that I did, because we were asked generally to do garden birds, like the smaller, cuter type, so I just kind of Google image that, and certain birds, like certain pictures would kind of spark my fancy, and I wouldn't say copy them, but kind of like follow the general style, because I tend to do more of a realistic style, although sometimes they go cartoony depending on how I'm feeling, so it kind of can go back and forth.
I wasn't really sure how to get started, to be honest, because I never really was able to draw birds. It was always one of my artist weaknesses. So I pretty much spent 2 weeks in class doodling and doodling and doodling. And one day I thought about the fact that I wanted to personify the birds, so I put a hat on one. And then it kind of took off from there a bit.
I tried to do more moments in time where like a bird looks like an Aztec bird, and there was one from the 1920s, like a gangster bird.
Yeah.
I like my gangster bird.
I like a gangster bird too.
Yeah.
So I think one of the most difficult parts was just working with so many students and so many people, and like everyone was kind of at a different experience level with InDesign and layout. Some people had done it before and some hadn't, so it was kind of hard to get it all organized and consistent.
But I think the learning curve with Ripple was pretty good as well. As in, people could pick it up pretty quickly, like maybe 1 or 2 sessions. So it meant that everyone was kind of equipped to do it.
Yeah.
After about a week, everyone was equipped to do their own layouts.
Yeah, because some people were teaching others, and we were all kind of learning as we went.
It's difficult to do a big group project with a bunch of your friends, because at one point you're like laughing and eating Haribo at your meeting, and you're like, somebody, we have to do something, we're working on something. It's difficult to organize things with a bunch of people you're really friendly with.
Professional relationship where someone can easily stand at the head of the table and go, do the work.
Or you're fired.
There were actually a few complications that came up with the birds, believe it or not. I think the biggest one was when we had pulled all day. We were working on the copies of Ripple, and the consensus kind of came up that we didn't actually have enough birds because they were getting a little repetitive in the pages. So Dorin and I had this wonderful idea where we were going to go to the library and sketch up quickly a few more birds. I went to the library and realized I forgot my birds, so I had to go back to my flat. And then I got to the library and realized I forgot my pens, so I had to go back to my flat. And I got back to the library. And that was pretty much the night.
It was already 2 a.m. by then.
Yeah. And we drew and scanned until like 5 in the morning.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was a matter of like us both needing to use one scanner,
Yeah.
having to make sure that it was at the correct
1200 dpi.
Yeah.
That was a nice night. We drank Coke and ate crisps
Yep.
and scanned
And chatted, and it was a good time.
So I think as like a creative writing student on the half and half publishing and creative writing course, it was good to work as well with some content that I enjoyed. And so it was nice kind of as you're editing it, you kind of get to know the pieces, you get to know the works and the poetry and the prose and stuff. And so it makes it a much more kind of enjoyable and less kind of daunting experience when you're working with something that you like.
I think it's quite unique for a university to be able to have a little compendium of its students' work in such a way, and it's created by the students, for the students, and for anyone who knows the students and anyone who has good taste. I think that I just think it's a great thing to be a part of, and I'm very happy to have had the opportunity.
Being involved in Ripples made me see how important it is to focus on the design aspects and like ensuring consistency throughout the manuscript, and I'd really like to continue looking at that area. David Pearson came in a couple of weeks ago and he was amazing, and I'd love to kind of get into typesetting and designing and then just making a book what it is.
It's a great mix of different types of literature in one book, written and put together by students that will entertain you, make you smile, and laugh.